Hello everybody, Daniel Walton here. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how we're helping businesses scale to 7 and 8 figures in 2025 using what's called the organic propaganda system. Now, I know the word propaganda might sound dark, manipulative maybe, but keep in mind, propaganda simply means propagating a thought or idea into somebody's mind. It's not inherently negative. It's strategic messaging that gets people to buy into your offer before ever dropping the price. What this helps with is it helps overcome the problem with traditional marketing. Now, let me explain why this matters in 2025. See, privacy policies have changed. Cookies are being eliminated. iOS 14.5. It's getting just harder to cross-track. 95% of the businesses, they're just fighting over the same pool of dead leads that aren't really driving the conversions that they need. And to top it all off, these platforms, they're prioritizing engaging content. They're prioritizing the content that drives the user watch time, the user experience, and ads don't generally fall into that bucket. Most businesses, they hit a plateau, especially when they're running paid ads, for one main reason. They're all selling to cold audiences who have never heard of them before. For example, what is that like? If you've never seen my video and you're watching it for the first time today, first of all, welcome in. Thank you. I would love for you to like and subscribe. I'm going to be dropping more videos. But if this is your first time and I said, hey, you don't know me, buy this $15,000 offer from me, you're going to be highly skeptical, probably not even going to engage. You might put in your information just because you're like, oh, I want to see what this is about, but you're not really interested. And that's what most advertisers are doing today. I mean, think about it. When was the last time like you saw a brand or any ad for the first time and you're like, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for and buy? It's very, very rare. Generally, it's the opposite. You're going to do some research. You're going to ask other people if they've seen or heard this before you end up even buying. Now, the businesses that are dominating in 2025, they understand this. They know that before somebody buys from you, they need to know you, like you, and trust you. And trust, it's not built with a single ad. It is a series of strategic content that aligns with the audience. So aside from the privacy policy issues, as I said, 95% of businesses, they're competing for these same leads, just focusing on a small pool, which we've determined there's really like three main groups. They're all competing for the 3%, which is people who are ready to buy right now. It's a very small percentage. If you were in a stadium and you presented your offer, roughly 3% of that audience is going to be ready to purchase it. Now, what about the other 97%? So most marketers, they've accepted that 3% is a normal rate, which is crazy. Could you imagine going to your parent and saying, hey, mom and dad, guess what? I got a 3% on my test. Great job. No, they would never do that. So when did 3% become a normal rate? Well, it didn't happen overnight. It was slowly diminishing returns as these restrictions and platform changes have happened, and as the markets have continued to get more and more competitive. Aside from the 3%, let's look at the market as a whole. In any market, there's three types of people in those markets. You have the sold demographic. These are people who are already convinced. So as I said before, this is the space that right here that most businesses are going after. The 3% is the sold. Then number two, you have the unsold demographic. We don't need to worry about these people. They're never going to buy. This is where most marketers overlook, is this third demographic of people in any market. And this is what we call the swing vote. Now, why is this? This is a massive population that can go either direction. Most marketers don't even direct any amount of their budgets toward these types of people. We do this in our top of funnel so that our funnel is constantly filled with these swing voters. Now, why these rates have dropped to, a 3% standard lead conversion rate is because everybody is pouring all their energy into this sold bucket, which is the sold demographic, people who are already buy. For example, if you are selling a mushroom tea and you say buy mushroom tea, there's only so many people that are interested in buy mushroom tea right now. They're already educated, but there's a lot of people in this swing vote right here that they might just need a couple pieces of content to consume. They might need a couple key points of information to now go from this swing vote all the way to the sold up here. As most advertisers do, most businesses do, they're just selling all the time to this sold demographic, this very small percentage of the entire market that's only ready to buy right now. And every business, 95% of businesses, they're all focusing on this, which is huge. So 95% of businesses focus on the same market. So 95%, which is crazy. Could you imagine everybody competing for just the 3%? Because it's the easiest. It's like you run an ad and it works for a short while. So I want to share a client story of mine. They were in the high ticket health space. Due to NDAs, we can't say who it is. I actually mentioned them in an ad one time and they weren't that happy about it. So they reached out to me, I took it down. A client of mine, they were in the high ticket health space. One of the most competitive, it was the high ticket weight loss space. It blew up with Ozempic and all these other weight loss treatments. And they were in one of the most competitive spaces. Now, what all their competitors were focused on the 3% of the market, which was people who knew, people who were already sold. Remember 3%, which is the sold demographic. So they focused on the sold demographic. So what we did is we created strategic content. And what this strategic content did is it brought in new audiences. It educated the audiences. And it increased not only the LTV, which is the lifetime value. So the clients, instead of normally they were dropping off on other businesses every like 2 to 3 months. With this client, we were able to get them up to a 5 to 6 month LTV. So it increased their LTV. It increased their AOV because they already bought in. They trusted the brand significantly more than others. And then it increased their show rate, which is huge. So this strategic content did all of this. In just 12 months, this business, they were stuck at about 220K per month. Through implementing the strategic content, which was influencers, UGC, we were able to get them to 8 million per month. That's correct. Yes. 8 million per month. They ended up doing over $100 million in revenue last year. And they did that in less than 24 months of launching. Now, this is what happens. Like all businesses, they run into a wall at some point in their advertising. For this business, they couldn't get above this 220K. They were stuck at about 50K per month in ad spend, because they were doing the same strategies everybody else was, only selling to this market. And think of it, this is why you see diminishing returns. When you are new to market and you're one of the first ones, I'm going to try to draw this in a graph and represent this. This is going to be your cost of acquisition here. When it's a newer market, your cost of acquisition are significantly lower. But what happens is competition goes up. And what happens is as competition goes up, the 3%, remember, there's only 3% of the market, 3% ready to buy. As more and more competitors go in, right here is, if this is the cost of acquisition. So as the competition went up, we'll call this number of competitors, the cost of acquisition also went up. So this whole thing filled up because that's how Facebook determines it. Hey, you want this one person. Well, when you're the only one person, they're just going to give it to you for more. Now, someone else is like, I want that person too. So Facebook says, well, you got to compete with this person. We're going to raise your prices up because they're going to pay more, right? So it's all bidding on this same audience, which is the 3% of any market that is ready to buy. So what happens is as you're early, you might actually get really good results, right? So you might launch this new offer. You might even be the first one to market it, and you're spending 20 to 30K per month on ads, and you're doing great. Generally, we find around that 20 to 50K month range is when businesses start to realize something's broken. They hit a wall. So what we're doing is we have our content, our strategic content that we're leveraging to break past this 20 to 30K per month wall in ads. So as I said, from our competitor, they came in when the market started getting more saturated. They couldn't spend more than 50K. So what we did is we deployed our strategic content. Well, we have 3 types of strategic content. Our propaganda content, this is going to be great for the swing votes. These are people who probably have the same pains and the same desires as the 3% of the market that is already sold. They all have the same pains, the same desires, but they need some propaganda, some persuasion. They need to believe certain things. It adjusts the perspective, and they do it before they even see your offer. So this is our top of funnel content. We also call it our feeder campaigns. What this does is this brings in people who normally haven't heard of us. They might need a couple videos that they need to consume. We help our clients write all of that. By doing this, we constantly fill up that pipeline so that that 3% who's ready to buy now is now ready to go. So that's how we bring in the top of funnel and we keep the funnel full, is with our propaganda content. The other strategic content we have is objection handling content. Now, depending on the offer, we use UGC, influencer, and we're going to sit down with your sales team, with your business owners, and understand the main objections that people have. We can convey this through strategic content before they even see an ad, or ideally, like once they've booked, before they purchase from you. The likelihood of them having those objections in the sales process is very small. And then our third type of strategic content, we call this FWC, or framing window content. This content is very strategic. It's going to reduce sales resistance, increase upsells, increase show rates. By implementing the framing window content, our sales team, they notice significant differences in the type of customer that they have. These customers, by implementing this, they come in knowing significantly more about your offer, who you help, and everything. Now, the conversation changes to, I don't trust you. Why should I buy from you? Why shouldn't I go from your competition? To, cool, what do I need to do to get started? Anything that I don't know. It's a very different conversation. So these are the three types of strategic content that we use. Additionally, we're going to use our direct response ads. So content number 4 will be our direct response, which that's what everybody's focusing on. Direct response, which is going to people who are ready to buy now. Instead of just focusing on the direct response like everybody else, you need a strategic content process from propaganda content, which is going to feed people the ideas that you need to believe. That, for example, going back to the example of mushroom coffee, we need them to buy into the benefits of mushrooms, how they can help people with anxiety, with their mood, that it's the most abundant, organism. Some scientists call it the most advanced organism in existence, that it has a way of communicating that's beyond even humans. We need them to buy into certain principles and ideas first. That's what we do with that top of funnel content. And by creating strategic content, or by doing it strategically, we can get them to buy in. Now, when they see one of your direct response ads, they already know you, like you, trust you. They're more likely to convert. And then we have our objection handling content and our framing window content that they also see, that gets them very interested and drives the sale. For the framing window content, there's really 4 types of content that we want out of there, the 4 types. So very simple. It's going to be questions, second layer questions, expectations, and then objections. And what you'll notice by this type of content is that your sales calls are going to be shorter. You're going to have less follow-up calls. For example, let's say the average close takes like 1.4 calls or 2.1 calls. Hey, from when that lead comes in, they talk to somebody on your team. How long did it take them? Well, we had 1 follow-up call after. So that was 2 calls to get the deal. Or we had 3 calls. Whatever that average is, you're going to see that shrink down by implementing this content. The benefits of doing this, all this type of content, is unlike direct response ads, which, as I said, most businesses just focus on this direct response ad. As I said at the beginning, it's very disruptive to the user experience. It doesn't increase the watch time. People can tell it's an ad. So by implementing this strategic content, something happens known as the algorithmic advantage. The algorithm favors your content. Thank you, Zuck. Because this type of content, we actually make it native to the platform. So you're going to get advantages. The Facebook platform also has an average of 52,000 points of preference per user. So 52,000 points of preference. So when we create this short form content, now it's seeing people engage with it. It's now learning. So what happens is the machine learning starts to work in our favor. People then engage with your content, this strategic content, UGC, influencer content, all the propaganda content we're creating. It's more strategic. It doesn't seem like an ad. It's not an ad. We just want them to buy into certain ideas. We're propagating ideas in their mind. We're framing them to get them out of a sales resistant state of mind to a buying state of mind. By doing this, people watch and they consume the content. So what's happening is Facebook's learning, the machine learning is learning, right? As I said, there's 52,000 points of preference per user here. And the machine learning is learning what's happening as they watch. So as they consume more of your content, it says this person likes it. I'm going to show them this other piece of content. Now they consume more of that content. Then what happens is the machine learns that these type of people, which for us, we target the rich, the affluent, the ideal client of you. We do this in our auto call. We break down who's your ideal avatar. Now the machine learning understands the type of people. And because it has 52,000 points of preference about this type of person who has consumed your content and then consumed the second piece of content we strategically placed for them, now it says, oh, you want those people. We have all of these people here. So now what happens is this funnel, let's look at this funnel. The 3% right here of the funnel that everybody is competing for. Remember, 95% of businesses are competing for this. Now what we're doing is we're just at the top here. We have all this strategic content that is, we might have different hooks, different creators, different angles, different ideas. We're getting people to engage. Now what happens is once they engage, they consume. Well, the machine, it learns. And then we show them more of our content. And it says, oh, these types of people are engaging with your content. It starts bringing all these types of people into your funnel. Now, instead of only competing on the 3%, which we're still targeting those 3%, don't get me wrong, we like easy layups. Now we have all these people that are coming into here. And guess what? The machine learning says, it's all about user experience, remember. So the favored Mark Zuckerberg content now, because all these people are coming in here and we have these buy campaigns, these direct response campaigns where all these people at the bottom of the funnel, we want to buy. Guess who's most likely to see the ad? Do you think the machine is going to show all these people who are coming into the funnel now? Who do you think it's more likely to show your ad to? Remember, they engaged with all your content at the top. Do you think they're going to show it to you over here or the competition who they haven't seen engage with them at all? Of course, it's going to go for you. It's all about user experience. So by doing this, you're now able to be directly in front of these people who you've already primed at the top with your strategic content. Now, as they go down this funnel and they're ready to buy, the machine knows they're ready to buy. That's why it shows the content, your competition, right? When you're ready to buy something, it's going to show it to you. It knows it. 52,000 points. It knows everything. It can tell when people are ready to buy. It can predict when people are pregnant, all these things. So now it's going to preference your content when people are ready to buy over your competition because it knows they've already consumed. Now, how do you implement this? Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to identify your swing votes. You're going to create a propaganda matrix of strategic content, one idea at a time. And then you're going to deploy this to certain audiences that we know are likely to convert. Remember, we want the swing votes. We need people that we can just give a little nudge to, and now we get them ready to buy. The content that you're going to want to do is going to be like podcast style, which does well, UGC, influencer, and then short form content. And we help all of our clients write all of this. We actually turn them into content wizards and help them scale. And then number 4 is you're going to need advanced targeting. When you implement this right now, it is very advanced. These are very, very advanced strategies. They take a lot of work and most businesses don't want that. Most agencies, they're in the business of systems. They're in the business of acquisition. It's easier for them to build a one size fits all system. I press a couple buttons, boom, boom, bow. And guess what? I have a new client and their ads are live. They're hoping that they can get you in this 3% and that the market's not that evolved. As the market goes up in competition, your prices go up. And eventually what happens is you can see from here, eventually you no longer profit. So what these agencies, most of these agencies are hoping that they catch you, the business, in this area right here before all the competition gets in, because then they look great. They look like they're doing great. That's why most businesses, they struggle once they hit to a certain point, $20,000 to $50,000 a month in ad spend, either because the competition catches on, more competitors come in, or they've hit the market cap, right? Their TAM is very small. TAM, total adjustable market, is already hit at that budget. So now we need to bring new people into it. Some of the things that you'll experience by implementing this, we're seeing 60% show rate seems to be the standard on paid traffic, where we're coming into campaigns that traditionally we're at we had one client that was 5% show rate on their appointments, got them up to 60% show rate, 35% close rates on average for these offers, these high ticket offers. So what traditionally, is around 15 to 20% close rate, you can see almost doubling that close rate in some instances. And then I think what's most noticeable is people buy more, they spend more, the AOV goes up, where you might have a $5,000 offer, you might also have a $10,000 offer, and you might currently be selling more of the $5,000 offer. What you get from all this content consumption is that people, they're more likely to upsell to that higher ticket offer. And then the biggest thing is dramatically decreasing the acquisition cost, because what is very important to note is, since all this content at the top here, we're not asking for buys. We're just asking them to view our content. And by doing this, we can get this for like we can get like a through play for like a penny. Then we get them to the next step and we get it for like 2 pennies. And then the step after that goes up to like 5 to 6 pennies for a through play. Down here, when you're here, you want a through play, it can be dollars. So we're getting them to consume content. It's actually not a very advanced strategy if you know what you're doing. It's very simple. For high ticket offers, you need about 15 to 20 touch points to drive a high ticket offer. Now, we're just very strategic of when they see certain pieces of content, how much content they consume before they see the ad. So now we're getting these 15 to 20 touch points at a fraction of the price that if we only relied on direct response ads. Now, I hope this was valuable. And if you want to see more content, drop a comment. I would love to know what questions you have about marketing your offer. Drop them in the comments. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And I hope to see you on the other side and hope to help you hit your first 7-figure month.